To escape my psycho contract wife and $1 million deal, I faked my own death 2 years ago and have been living the good life ever since. So of course I'd run into her, or someone who looked just like her, while cruising the mall. That same night, my best friend and I had just ordered the premium package at Lux Spa and Lounge when I stepped out to use the restroom. The next thing I knew, I was being tied up. She used her belt to strap me to the bed. Alara Thorne pushed the door open, her eyes gleaming with a familiar, terrifying madness. "My dear husband," she purred, "didn't you die 2 years ago?" A slow, dangerous smile spread across her lips. "Did you have an extra life, honey?" She leaned in close, her voice a venomous whisper. "You've been a very bad boy, trying to leave me again." For the next 2 weeks, she was insatiable, clinging to me, demanding every last drop of my energy. My body was giving out, but she just brought me a bowl of some foul-smelling herbal concoction. "Be a good boy," she'd say. "Drink up so we can continue. My name is Leo Miller. 5 years ago, I died in an accident." Of course, the person who died was the old Leo, the Leo who, for a 5-year, $1 million marriage contract, had to play the part of ing husband to Alara Thorne. God only knows how I survived those 5 years. Alara Thorne, just her name is enough to send a shiver down my spine. The second that contract expired, I took the money, enough to set me up for life, and ran without a backward glance. Faking my death was the only surefire way I could think of to get away from her for good. It's been 2 years, and for 2 years I've been living it up in Arcadia with over $1 million in the bank. The daily interest alone was more than enough to cover my every whim. I moved my only family, my sister Kaylin and my adorable little niece Maya, out from our hometown to live with me. I bought a house in the best school district, even though Maya was just starting preschool. And my best friend, Dorian Jones, the guy I'd been getting into trouble with since we were kids, I put up the cash, he put in the work, and we bought up the franchise rights for a bunch of Amazon delivery stations across the city. We were the silent partners, just checking the daily reports and raking in the cash. In Dorian's words, "Leo, man, you're my hero. You're a walking ATM." Tonight, Dorian and I were at a dive bar, grabbing beers and wings. He mumbled around a chicken bone. "I gotta hand it to you, Leo. I really thought you were a goner. That you'd actually fallen for her. 5 years playing bodyguard and lapdog to an ice queen like Alara Thorne, day in and day out." He took a huge swig of his beer and burped. "So you were just playing a long game. A 5-year undercover mission to scam the rich girl and run off with the cash? I honestly thought you were a willing simp. That you'd gone soft, totally whipped." Dorian slapped me on the back so hard I almost choked on a wing. I knew it. My boy wouldn't be some spineless pushover. I washed the wing down with some cold beer, a bitter smile on my face. "Simp? Whipped? You think I wanted any of that? Only I know what it took to survive those 5 years. I said, "That woman, Alara. Man, it's a long story. Anyway, the money's in the bank, I'm free. The rest of it, let's not even talk about it. This life right now was the one I wanted." When I got home, Kaylin had a hot meal waiting. "Leo, you're back. Wash up, dinner's ready. I made your favorite barbecue ribs." "Uncle Leo," my niece Maya shot across the room like a tiny cannonball and latched on my leg. I laughed, scooping her up and planting a kiss on her cheek. "Were you a good girl at preschool today?" Maya was the bestest. My parents died when I was young. It was Kaylin who raised me, who put me through college. She was more of a mother to me than a sister. Later on, she married the wrong guy, and they divorced not long after Maya was born, leaving her with some health problems and a broken heart. Bringing them to Arcadia was my way of giving them the good life they deserved. My family is the most precious thing in the world to me. No one's going to mess with that. At the dinner table, Maya was chewing on her fork, her big eyes blinking up at me. "Uncle Leo, that wife you had before, was she really, really mean? Is that why you had to die and run away?" Kaylin gently tapped her hand. "Maya, don't say things like that." I tweaked her little nose and smiled. "What do little kids know? Uncle Leo had to go save the world. I defeated the big bad monster, and now I'm back." "Oh, so you're a superhero." Seeing her innocent smile warmed my heart. Still, for some reason, even though life felt like a dream, a deep, unshakable unease lingered somewhere inside me, especially when I heard the name Alara Thorne. It was like a curse etched into my bones. I shook my head, pushing the thought away. Impossible. There was no way she could find me. Arcadia was a big city, and I had a new identity. Later that evening, I was pushing Maya on the swings of the neighborhood park. The setting sun cast a golden glow on her happy face, her laughter like tinkling silver bells. Watching her, a sense of peace washed over me. This life was paradise. The weekend was bright and sunny. Humming a tune, I drove my new SUV with my precious niece Maya strapped in her car seat straight to the biggest shopping mall in Arcadia. A voice chirped from inside. "Who is it?" The door opened and Kaylin was standing there, holding Maya's hand. The sound of cartoons echoed from the living room. "Uncle Leo, you're finally back." Maya let go of her mom's hand and launched herself at me like a tiny missile, hugging my leg tightly. "Hey, my little munchkin." I laughed and bent down to pick her up. Just then, Leo. A shriek so sharp it could have shattered glass erupted from behind me. I froze. Oh no. Alara stood behind me, her face not just pale, but a sickly mottled red. Her beautiful eyes were blazing with a furious, insane fire, locked on my sister and Maya. Maya's cheerful Uncle Leo had been the spark that ignited the powder keg. "You're keeping another woman," she screamed, her finger trembling as she pointed at Kaylin. "And you have a daughter this old with her." Her gaze shifted to a terrified Maya, who was now hiding behind Kaylin's legs. "And you have the audacity to show them off to me." What the hell? What kind of twisted soap opera was playing out in her head? My sister Kaylin was stunned by the sudden onslaught, instinctively pulling Maya behind her as she stared warily at Alara. "I'm his wife," Alara shrieked, cutting her off. Then, like a woman possessed, she lunged towards Kaylin and Maya. "You little bastard. I'll kill you," she screamed, reaching for Maya. Kaylin was frozen in terror, clutching Maya as she stumbled backward. Maya let out a piercing wail, the sound echoing through the small apartment. "Alara, stop it." I snapped out of my shock and lunged forward, grabbing her around the waist from behind. "Are you insane?" She struggled wildly in my arms, her strength surprising. "Let go of me, Leo, you liar." "How could you lie to me?" she shrieked. "I'm going to kill them. I'll kill them both." The scene was pure chaos. Kaylin, trying to comfort a sobbing Maya, looked at me and this lunatic with wide, terrified eyes. "Leo, what is going on?" she stammered. I wished I knew. "Calm down." I gritted my teeth, dragging the struggling Alara away into a corner. She was still fighting, her eyes bloodshot like a cornered lioness. I couldn't take it anymore. I lowered my voice to a furious hiss. "Look closely. That's my sister, Kaylin. She raised me. She's like a mother to me. And that's not my daughter. That's my niece. My sister's daughter. My niece." My furious shouting seemed to finally penetrate the fog of jealousy and rage in her brain. Alara's struggle ceased. She froze. She stared at me in disbelief, then whipped her head around to look at my sister, who was still trying to soothe the crying Maya. The series of expressions that crossed her face was something to behold. It went from pure rage to shock to confusion, and finally to a dawning, creeping horror. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. She seemed to finally realize that she had just made a colossal, universe-shattering mistake. The air went dead silent, broken only by Maya's heartbroken sobs. My furious declaration that Maya was my niece was like a bucket of ice water dumped over Alara's raging fire. She froze solid. Her eyes were wide, darting from me to my sister, who was still comforting a traumatized Maya. "Your sister?" Her voice trembled, all the ferocity from moments before completely gone. The color drained from her face, leaving it whiter than her usual pale makeup. She finally, maybe sort of understood the magnitude of her screw-up. My sister, still bewildered, clutched Maya and watched Alara with wary eyes. The next thing Alara did almost made my eyes pop out of my head. She suddenly spun around, faced my sister, and executed a perfect degree bow. It was so formal it looked like something out of a textbook. "Sister, I am so sorry." Her voice was loud, laced with a sob, and dripping with flattery. "I misunderstood. I'm a horrible person. I'm blind. I should be struck down." "Me? My sister?" Maya was so startled by the outburst that her crying hitched for a second. This woman's ability to switch gears was faster than a Formula car. After the apology, she straightened up and saw Maya, still sniffling in Kaylin's arms. Alara's face immediately broke into what was supposed to be a warm, friendly smile. She cautiously crouched down, trying to get closer. "Sweetie, don't cry, don't cry." Annie didn't mean it. Annie is sorry, okay? She reached out to pat Maya's head. Maya recoiled, burying her face in Kaylin's side and shaking her little head violently. Wah, bad lady, mommy. Bad lady. Alara's outstretched hand froze midair, the smile stiffening on her face. She looked utterly lost, sweat beading on her forehead as she glanced at me desperately. That look on her face was like a lost puppy begging for help. Leo, she pleaded, her voice laced with a panic she probably didn't even recognize in herself. What could I do? I was pretty desperate myself. Maya, sweetie, it's okay. This is Uncle Leo's friend. My explanation sounded pathetic even to my own ears. Alara's eyes darted around, and a light bulb seemed to go off. She shot up and fumbled in her ridiculously expensive handbag, pulling out a sleek black credit card. Sister Maya, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. She tried to shove the card into my sister's hand. Please, whatever you need, whatever you want, just buy it. It's on me. Consider it my apology. Kaylin, completely flustered, waved her hands frantically. No, we can't accept this. We don't need anything. Yes, you do. You must. Alara insisted, absolutely certain. What toys does Maya like? Barbies? Legos? A Disney princess dress? Annie will buy them all for you. And you, sister, what kind of handbag do you like? What jewelry? I'll have it delivered to your door. She sounded like a lottery winner on a frantic spending spree, desperate to flash her wealth. Watching her try to bury us in consumer goods, I felt a vain throb in my forehead. This woman's solution to every problem was so infuriatingly simple: throw money at it. But Kaylin was a reasonable person. Seeing Alara's sincere attitude and noticing the way she instinctively protected her stomach, and after my brief mumbled explanation, she seemed to grasp the situation. Her anger subsided, replaced by an expression of pure, exasperated bewilderment as she looked between me and Alara. Leo, what on earth is going on? Kaylin whispered, her voice full of helpless confusion. How could I possibly explain? Yeah, sis, this is your future sister-in-law. She's a bit unhinged, wildly possessive, and also pregnant with my child. Kaylin would probably kick me out on the spot. It's a misunderstanding. All a misunderstanding, was all I could manage. At dinner time, to further demonstrate her sincerity, Alara actually offered to help in the kitchen. Kaylin and I exchanged a look of profound shock and a deep, shared sense of foreboding, and we were right to be worried. The great Alara Thorne, a woman who could command boardrooms and sign nine-figure deals without blinking, was a complete disaster in the kitchen. She was like a tornado in a china shop. First, she knocked over the soy sauce, creating a sticky brown lake on the countertop. Then, while chopping vegetables, she nearly sliced off her own finger instead of the cucumber. Kaylin frantically supervised, trying to prevent her from burning the kitchen down. I leaned against the kitchen doorway, watching Alara, dressed in a designer gown but wearing my sister's kitschy floral apron, bumble around the kitchen. For a moment, it was almost funny, and it stirred something strange inside me. She finally emerged, proudly presenting a plate of something black and unrecognizable. Her face was smudged with flour, but she was grinning like a child seeking praise. Leo, sister, try it. It's my first time cooking. Kaylin and I stared at the dark matter on the plate, then at her expectant face. We shared a look of mutual suffering. It seemed that this powerful, domineering, and frankly psycho woman was, for my sake, actually willing to shed all of her pride and arrogance. She was trying, in her own clumsy way, to become a part of my life, my family, even if her methods were hard to stomach. In the end, Kaylin had to cook a whole new meal, and even Alara had to agree. My sister's cooking was amazing. After that day, it was like Alara had installed a permanent homing beacon in my sister's apartment. Leo, I'm hungry. Leo, I'm craving Kaylin's sweet and sour pork today. Leo, Maya said she wants the strawberry cake I bought. The excuses were endless, but the goal was always the same. Mooching a meal, she called it catering to the pregnant woman's palate and soaking in the warmth of family. My sister Kaylin went from being stunned and wary to just used to it. Sometimes, if Alara was running a little late, Kaylin would even murmur, I wonder why Alara isn't here yet. Of course, Alara didn't just eat. She would insist on washing the dishes, which usually resulted in a flooded kitchen floor. She tried to help Maya with arts and crafts, only to get more engrossed than Maya herself. making a complete mess of the materials. Watching her, dressed in a $1,000 dress and a $10 apron, causing chaos in the kitchen, I sometimes really wanted to pry open her head and see what was going on in there. As for Maya, she was completely won over by Alara's combination of checkbook diplomacy and genuine patience. Imported snacks became a daily staple, and limited edition Barbie dolls filled her toy corner. Whenever Alara arrived, Maya would trail after her like a little shadow. Annabelle, Annabelle, was the little baby in your tummy good today? Annabelle, you know what? That mean boy at preschool was mean to me again. Alara would crouch down and listen intently to all of Maya's little stories, her eyes filled with a softness that could melt glaciers. It was a stark contrast to the predatory looks she gave me when we were alone. My sister watched the two of them, her initial anxiety replaced with amusement. You know, Leo, she told me quietly one day. Take away the bossiness, and Alara is actually a pretty good person. Look at her, she really cares about Maya. And she never hesitates to buy us things. It's just that temper. It's like a firecracker goes off at the slightest thing. What could I say? I just nodded in agreement. She was good to me in her own way, the kind of good that involved wanting to keep me on a very, very short leash. But the good times couldn't last forever. Alara's morning sickness hit, and it hit hard. She was sick all the time, throwing up everything she ate. Her mood swings became legendary. One minute she'd be smiling sweetly at Maya. The next she'd be giving me the silent treatment because I looked at the TV for too long. I started Googling how to care for a pregnant woman. One night, at a.m., she woke up craving a specific kind of donut from a cult favorite shop across town. Without a word, I got in the car and went. By the time I got back, she was asleep, but there was a faint smile on her lips. I'd massage her swollen calves, my technique clumsy and amateurish. She'd just hum contentedly, her eyes closing like a cat being petted just right. Leo, harder. Did you even eat dinner? She complained, but her eyes held a soft glow I'd never seen before. A few times late at night, she'd bury her head in my chest. Her voice would be muffled, tinged with a vulnerability she'd never admit to. I used to live in that huge house all by myself. It was so cold. Everyone was afraid of me. No one ever told me the truth. I thought you were dead those 2 years. She never finished the sentence, just held me tighter. In those moments, I suddenly felt that this impossible woman wasn't so bad after all. Dorian, that jackass, finally got in touch. The second I answered, his booming voice filled my ear. Leo, where the hell have you been? I thought you'd been abducted by aliens. I gave him the condensed version, Alara's pregnancy, the imprisonment, the whole crazy story. The other end of the line was silent for a full second. Then he burst into thunderous, hyena-like laughter. Holy shit, Leo, you magnificent bastard. You played a triple agent and knocked her up in the process. The rich girl runs off with the baby. No, wait, the rich girl kidnaps the dadtobe and runs off with the baby. Haha, you're a legend. So, did Alara really, drain you dry, bro? I've got this old family remedy I could hook you up with. Listening to his crude jokes, I wanted to climb through the phone and punch him. Shut up. You're the one who needs it. Hey, don't be mad, Dorian laughed slyly. Seriously though, you got a kid on the way. You basically skipped all the hard parts and hit the jackpot. Why would you ever work again? Just stay home, be a stay-at-home dad, and let the rich wife support you. It's the dream. I didn't bother arguing. His brain operated on a different frequency, where morals were determined by looks and bank accounts. Later, the three of us, me, Alara, and my sister, ended up at a baby store together. The scene was surreal. Alara stared at the impossibly tiny clothes, shoes, and bottles, her eyes shining. This one's cute, buy it. This fabric is soft, buy it. This one is imported, it's better for the baby. I'll take them all. She looked like she was ready to buy the entire store. My sister stood beside her, looking exasperated. Alara, we don't need this one. That one's too small. The baby will outgrow it in a week. Alara just blinked, a docile expression on her face that said, I don't get it, but I'll listen to you. I watched her gently touch the soft little outfits. The anticipation and happiness on her face were undeniable. She was genuinely excited for this baby's arrival, and she was genuinely trying to be a good mom. A good wife? The jury was still out on that one. Life settled into a rhythm, and Alara's belly grew bigger by the day, like a balloon being steadily inflated. As her due date approached, the tension in the house grew thick. Me, the theoretical father Tobe, I was practically vibrating with anxiety. I spent my days flipping through parenting books, feeling like I understood every word individually, but the sentences themselves were complete gibberish. Leo, stop pacing. You're making me dizzy, my sister Kaylin said, balancing a bowl of chicken soup in one hand while the other rested on her own lower back. As a veteran mom, she was the picture of calm. Alara, on the other hand, was calm in a completely different way. She was issuing orders. She'd send me on citywide scavenger hunts for specific foods, a breakfast burrito from a food truck in one neighborhood, an artisanal cupcake from another. One day she decided she wanted to knit a sweater, got the yarn into a tangled mess that looked like a spider's web, and then handed it off to my sister. I was pretty sure she was just using her pregnancy as an excuse to torment me, reveling in her privileges. Finally, on a sunny afternoon, she clutched her stomach, her face pale. Leo, I think it's time. My brain went completely blank. Although what to do when labor starts information I'd memorized vanished in a thin air. Kaylin, quick, it's happening. My sister was a whirlwind of efficiency, the pre-packed hospital bag already by the door. After a chaotic scramble, we got Alara to the hospital and into the delivery room. The red in delivery light flickered on. Feeling like a crushing weight on my chest, I collapsed onto a bench in the hallway, my palms sweating. In that room was my wife and my child, who I hadn't even met. Time crawled by, each second stretching into an eternity. Kaylin patted my shoulder. It'll be okay. Alara is strong, and we have the best doctors. I knew she was right, but I couldn't stop the dark thoughts from creeping in. What if, no? Shut up. Don't jinx it. I don't know how much time passed. It could have been hours or just a moment. The delivery room door opened. A nurse emerged, holding a tiny swaddled bundle, a professional smile on her face. Congratulations, mother and daughter are both healthy. Pounds, ounces, a beautiful little girl. I shot up on the bench, my legs feeling like jelly. Mother and daughter are healthy. A girl. The massive weight on my chest finally lifted. A wave of emotion hit me, and my eyes stung. I almost broke down crying right there in the hallway. I followed the nurse to see the baby. She was a tiny, pink little bundle, her eyes squeezed shut, her little mouth making sucking motions. This was my daughter. My heart felt like it had been tickled by a tiny, soft hand, and it melted into a puddle. The nurse placed her in my arms. I stood there stiff as a board, hardly daring to breathe, terrified I might break this fragile little doll. She was so small, so soft. It was over. I, Leo Miller, was destined to be wrapped around this little girl's finger for the rest of my life. AING girl dad. Sign me up. In the recovery room, Alara lay on the bed, pale and beaded with sweat, but when she looked at our daughter in the bassinet, her eyes held a tenderness I had never seen before. It was a warmth that could melt icebergs. She reached out a finger and gently touched the baby's cheek, a weak but contented smile on her lips. Leo, she looks like you. I looked at her, then at the baby, a storm of emotions swirling inside me. This woman who had put me through hell had just given me a daughter. You did great, I managed to choke out. It was all I could think of to say. She didn't answer, just looked at me, her eyes filled with something complex and unreadable. When it came time to name her, we for once were in complete agreement. Let's call her Noelle, Alara said softly, gazing out the window. Noelle. It felt right. A name that held the memory of our tumultuous story, a nod to the season of new beginnings, a promise of peace. It was her obsessive need for me transformed into a quiet, hopeful prayer for our new family. The day we brought her home, Kaylin and Maya were ecstatic. Kaylin held little Noelle, her eyes glistening. This is wonderful, our family is growing. Maya stood on her tiptoes, peering into the bassinet at her sleeping baby cousin. Uncle Leo, Annie Belle, the baby is so cute. She reached out a tiny finger to poke Noelle's cheek, but Kaylin gently intercepted her. Be gentle, sweetie, the baby is very little, okay? Maya nodded seriously. I'm going to be a good big cousin and protect her. Looking at everyone in the room, Kaylin's loving smile, Maya's innocent promise, and Alara's tired but glowing profile, I suddenly felt like all the crazy, messed up stuff from the past didn't matter anymore. Right now, All I wanted was to protect this. I knew that with Alara's personality, our future wouldn't be completely peaceful. But so what? I could handle it. We could handle it. Life in Arcadia settled into a new routine, but a few weeks later, Alara dropped a bomb. Leo, pack a bag. We're taking Noelle to New York. I was in the middle of changing Noelle's diaper. My hand slipped. New York? What? My parents want to meet you and their granddaughter. Her tone was matter-of-fact, but I could hear the unspoken command. That was her turf, her father's turf. A few days later, we were on a private jet. I held Noelle, watching the clouds drift by, my stomach doing backflips. This was way more nerve-wracking than that night at Lux Spa. The Thorne estate in New York was even more ridiculous than I'd imagined. As the ornate iron gates swung open, it felt like we were entering some kind of royal park. A man stood in the center of the grand foyer, radiating an aura of absolute power. He was impeccably dressed in a dark-tailored suit that screamed old money and authority. His hair was perfectly coiffed, and his eyes were sharp enough to pierce straight through you. This had to be her father, Harrison Thorne. He scanned me from head to toe, and I felt like I was undergoing an X-ray inspection. The air grew thick and heavy. Alara, however, was perfectly at ease. "Dad," she said, stepping forward to link her arm with his. "This is Leo, and this is Noelle." Her voice held a hint of daughterly affection I'd never heard before. Wah! As if sensing the oppressive atmosphere. Or maybe she was just hungry. Noelle's face crumpled, and she let out a piercing cry. The sound shattered the silence. Harrison Thorne's intense gaze instantly shifted from me to the baby in my arms. The stern lines of his face softened, melting away. "Oh, my sweet granddaughter. What's wrong?" he murmured, stepping forward to take her from my arms. His movements were surprisingly gentle. As he held her, Noelle's crying subsided, and her tiny hand reached out to grasp his finger. A rare, almost stiff smile appeared on Harrison's face. That evening, the Thornes hosted a grand family dinner, and by dinner I mean an event more lavish than any corporate gala I'd ever attended. A long, polished table was laden with exquisite food, surrounded by people who looked like they owned half the city. Alara, stunning in an elegant evening gown, had one arm linked with mine, the other cradling a sleeping Noelle. She stood at the head of the table, her voice clear and confident. "Everyone, I'd like to formally introduce you," she announced, a regal calm about her. "This is my husband, Leo Miller." Her eyes met mine, a flash of pride, tenderness, and disguised ownership in them. "And this is our daughter, Noelle." The room buzzed with whispers and polite applause. One of the relatives, a woman dripping in diamonds, gave Alara a knowing smile. "Well, Alara, dear, it seems your persistence has finally paid off." Her tone was dripping with meaning. Alara just smiled serenely. Fate is a funny thing, isn't it? After dinner, Harrison summoned me to his study. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey. "Leo," he began, his voice smoother now. "Alara has always been a stubborn child. When she sets her mind to something, there's no stopping her." I nodded. He had no idea. "I hear you've started some small ventures in Arcadia." "Just a few things, enough to get by," I said modestly. "Have you ever considered working for the Thorne Group?" he asked, getting straight to the point. I froze. He was trying to recruit me. "Harrison, I said carefully. "I'm not a natural businessman. My only goal right now is to live a quiet life and take care of Alara and Noelle." The Thorne Group was a shark tank. I'd be eaten alive. Harrison studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "I can respect that, as long as Alara is happy." When I left the study, Alara was waiting, holding Noelle. "So, what did my father want?" she asked. "Just chatting." She smirked, not buying it for a second. "Honey," she whispered, leaning in close, a smug, triumphant glint in her eyes. "You're the family hero now, the man who finally tamed the dragon. You realize you can get away with anything, right?" I couldn't help but laugh. Even now, she couldn't resist getting the upper hand. But looking at the genuine joy in her eyes and the sleeping baby in her arms, fine, I could be the hero. Our trip to New York had one more stop. "Leo, tomorrow you're coming somewhere with me," Alara announced a day later, her expression neutral, but with that familiar, unsettling flicker in her eyes. My stomach dropped. Where's she planning now? "Somewhere special. You'll see when we get there." The more cryptic she was, the more nervous I got. The next day, The car wound through a series of streets and finally stopped outside a heavily secured compound. High walls, barbed wire, and guards with stern faces at the gate. A psychiatric hospital? I was confused. Alara didn't say a word, just got out of the car, holding Noelle, and walked straight in. I hurried after her, my mind racing. We passed through several locked doors and entered a visiting area. Through a thick pane of glass, I saw two people, and my blood ran cold. Reese Nash, Lyra Vance. I'd recognize those names even in my nightmares. They were the two lowlifes who, but the people in front of me now. Reese was wearing a loose-fitting patient's gown, his hair a mess, his eyes vacant. He was squatting in a corner, chewing on his own fingers with a disturbingly focused expression, drool dripping from his mouth. Lyra wasn't much better. Her hair was wild and unkempt. She was clutching a pillow, murmuring to the wall in a low, ghostly whisper. Holy hell. They were completely broken. All their past arrogance and scheming had vanished without a trace. They were just two shells of human beings. Alara's lips curled into a cold smile as she looked at the two figures behind the glass, as if they were insects. I just let them reap what they sowed, and they ended up like this. She said it so casually, but a chill ran down my spine. This woman, when she was ruthless, was truly ruthless. But damn if it wasn't a little bit satisfying to see. Alara looked down at our daughter, Noelle, who was blinking up at her, completely unaware. Alara's voice dropped to an unerringly instructive tone. Noelle, look closely at those two animals. They're bad people. They almost killed your father and me. She paused, her eyes growing colder, almost freezing. When you grow up, if you ever meet people like this, you don't have to be polite. Yell at them. Hit them. Make them understand what karma is. People like them should be dead. They're a waste of air. I felt my jaw twitch. Honey, our daughter is less than a month old. Isn't this a little intense for a life lesson? Telling her to hit people? She was really committed to her black and white view of the world. Looking at Reese and Lyra's pathetic state, and then hearing Alara's words, I suddenly understood. I understood her intense possessiveness. I understood why she became so obsessive, so unhinged after I died. She was protecting me, protecting us, in her own way, even if that way sometimes made my back hurt. Leaving the hospital, the sunlight felt blinding. I took a deep breath, feeling a huge weight lift from my chest. The old grudges, the enemies who had once wanted me dead, had all gotten what they deserved. It was good. I turned to look at Alara. She was cooing at Noelle, her profile softened by the sunlight. Maybe our future wouldn't be perfectly calm, but at least the darkest shadows had finally lifted. Me, her, and our daughter, we could finally truly start a new life. Returning to Arcadia from New York felt like coming home. Even the air seemed sweeter. Little Noelle was getting chubbier by the day, and Alara's mood had improved dramatically. One afternoon, holding Noelle, she said to me, Leo, let's have another wedding. I blinked. Huh. The first one didn't count, she said, her tone light but firm. That was a contract, a business deal, and it included your ridiculous plan to fake your own death. This is different now. She looked down at the sleeping baby in her arms, her eyes so soft they could turn stone to water. I want to give Noelle a proper beginning, and I want to give us one too. Something shifted inside me. She was right. What we had before wasn't real. Okay, whatever you want. There was no massive fairy tale wedding this time. Surprisingly, Alara wanted to keep it small. She said she only wanted the people closest to us to be there. So it was just my sister Kaylin, my niece Maya, and my screw-up, little when it counts best friend Dorian. On Alara's side, it was just her parents and a few trusted friends. The venue was a small, charming chapel in Arcadia, sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows. Maya, in a little flower girl dress, was practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. Dorian, looking uncomfortably handsome in a tailored suit, couldn't stop sneaking glances at the bridesmaids. Some things never changed. My sister Kaylin sat in the front row, her eyes glistening. I knew she was truly happy for me. When it was time to exchange vows, the pastor stood before us, his expression serene. My palms were sweating, but Alara suddenly took my hand. Hers was cool and slightly damp, too. We hadn't prepared any giant diamond rings. Alara said that cold, hard objects couldn't possibly represent our back-from-the-dead love story. Under the pastor's smiling gaze, we both reached out. My sister, holding the baby, brought her to us gently, carefully. We took our daughter, Noelle, into our arms together. The little one was sound asleep, her tiny mouth making little sucking motions, completely oblivious that she was the star of the show. Noelle. Alara's voice trembled almost imperceptibly. She is the most precious fruit of our love, the strongest bond in our marriage. I looked at her, then down at our daughter. My heart was full. Yes, I said, my voice a little hoarse. We'll spend our lives protecting her and protecting this family. The vows were short, but they carried the weight of a lifetime. In the pews, my sister was openly weeping with joy. Even Dorian managed a rare moment of sincerity, clapping me on the shoulder. Leo, man, I'm happy for you. From now on, when your wife gives you hell, just remember to, well, take it like a man. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The Alara at the wedding was someone I'd never seen before. In her white dress, her face was free of its usual icy mask. In its place was the blush of a bride and the gentle warmth of a new mother. She held my hand tightly. Her eyes, which usually held storms, were now filled with nothing but pure happiness and a kind of peace I'd never seen in them before. It was as if a ship long lost at sea had finally found its harbor. The reception was simple, held in a small restaurant next to the chapel. The food was exquisite, and the company was warm. Laughter filled the room. Someone toasted to us, calling us the couple who came back from the dead, and Noelle, the angel who brought the miracle. Alara just smiled, raised her glass, and drank. Her smile was so bright it was dazzling. After the wedding, life truly turned a new page. There were no more shocking plot twists, just the quiet, ordinary rhythm of daily life. Alara was still Alara. At work she was the queen who could silence a boardroom with a single look, but at home, she wore the silly cartoon print apron my sister bought her and fumbled with the baby food maker. Sometimes she'd get a sudden whim to cook for me. The results were always an adventure, but seeing her with a smudge of flour on her nose, waiting expectantly for my verdict, I'd always smile and say it was delicious. What can I say? I was completely hers. Noelle grew and changed every day. From a little bundle who could only coo, she learned to roll over, to crawl, to babble Diddy and Mama. Each tiny milestone filled our home with joy. Kaylin was now the official baby care commander-in-chief, her experience making everything run smoothly. Maya became a devoted cousin sitter, running to find the baby the second she got home from school. Annie, Kaylin, was the baby a good eater today? Can I sing to her? Watching the two of them, their heads together, warmed my heart. The smile on my sister's face was more frequent now, too. Sometimes she'd watch our chaotic little family and wipe away a tear. I knew it was from relief and happiness at our urging. She even started dressing up more, going out with old friends. Life had to move forward. As for Dorian, he'd been acting suspiciously happy lately, always grinning at his phone. When I asked if he was seeing someone, he just gave me his usual spiel, a guy like me. I don't date people, people date me. And Alara? Her little habit of checking up on me hadn't completely disappeared, but now it felt more like flirting. Honey, what are you doing? Do you miss me and the baby? Her voice on the phone was soft and playful, a world away from the soul-crushing interrogations of the past. That $1 million I'd run off with? Alara waved a hand and declared she would scientifically manage it for me. Your money is my money, isn't it? She'd say with a raised eyebrow. More importantly, it's Noelle's future college fund, wedding fund, and startup fund. Fine by me. She was my wife and the mother of my child. She could call the shots. One evening after Noelle was asleep, we were curled up on the sofa. She poked me in the side. Honey, that extra life you had, do you have any spares? She was joking, but there was a hint of seriousness in her eyes. What if I can't find you again someday? I laughed, pulling her and our daughter, sleeping in her bassinet nearby, into a tight hug. Don't worry, I said. This time you couldn't get rid of me if you tried. I'm not going anywhere. She snuggled closer, purring like a contented cat. The evening sun streamed through the window, bathing the living room in a warm, golden light. I held my soft, precious daughter, Alara's arm linked with mine, her head on my shoulder. Kaylin and Maya were nearby, whispering and laughing as they played with a newly awakened Noelle. This right here was what peace felt like. I, Leo Miller, once thought my life had hit rock bottom. I'd even died once. I never imagined that on the other side of all that chaos, I would find this kind of happiness. It was worth it, every crazy, terrifying moment. And this love, this warmth that I had fought so hard for, I would spend the rest of my life protecting it. My life had been one long, dark eclipse, but now it was finally full.